Hello, my name is Colin Leconte. I'm Managing Director of Digimap in Guernsey, and today we'd like to show you the Information Gateway Online Reporter, otherwise known as IGOR. I have with me John Sercombe, who is the lead developer for the software, who will give you an overview.
This diagram shows the inputs and the outputs of the IGOR exchange of information system. Starting here on the left, we have end users who are working within financial institutions. They access the system using a web browser based interface, so they can register themselves as users of the system and set up records for the financial institutions which they'll want to submit reports for. They can then submit reports through that interface and review the contents of previously submitted reports using the user interface. They can also submit reports using a web service call. This allows reports to be submitted and validated electronically so that larger companies or software suppliers can integrate their back-end systems with IGOR directly to automate the process of submitting their reports. Then we have in the top right administration staff of the host country's tax authority. They have the ability to review and authorize user requests to register particular financial institutions and to search what's previously been reported. There's also an interface where they can send secure messages to financial institutions and to send reminders of deadlines to FIs that haven't yet submitted a report for a given period. Over here on the left, we've got financial institutions then receiving email from IGOR. So they will receive submission reminders via email or email notifications about any direct secure messages. And the other output in the bottom right here is transmitting data to the destination countries, either using the IRS's IDES service for FATCA reports, or in the case of CRS reports or UK IGA reports, to use their transmission service as and when they provide the specification for how that will work. The IGOR system has a web browser front end for financial institutions to use. They register for this using an email address and password, and then they can set up their financial institutions which they want to submit reports for, and then go ahead and submit reports and see that whether they're valid or not, and review reports that they've previously submitted. So if I go onto this link here, we can see the front screen of the IGOR system. I've already set up an email address and password for myself, so I'll just put those in. I haven't set anything up yet in IGOR, so the first thing it does is it asks me to set up some information about my organisation. This is so that the income tax department can have enough information to keep in contact with me. So I'll put in some sort of dummy information for now. I'll call myself Digimap John. There we go. So having set up this organisation, I've now got to register the financial institutions which I want to submit reports for. At the moment we've only enabled the functionality for FATCA, but potentially we would be able to submit reports for CRS and other reporting types here. If we're submitting for FATCA, then when we start typing in the name of our financial institution, the system looks up from the IRS's registry of financial institutions the name of the organisation that we've typed in, and that means that we can look up the GIN, so we don't necessarily have to know it. For FATCA in IGOR, you have to specify a financial institution from the IRS list. There it is. Now, you'll see at the moment it says it's a financial institution awaiting authorization. There is a separate front end for the staff in the income tax office. And if I look at this financial institutions tab, you'll see that we're now looking at the financial institutions awaiting authorization. So we can see the organisation information that I just typed in, the contact details, the email address that I'm registered with, and the financial institution that I've just requested to be able to report for. So I'm now going to authorize that. And now if I go back to the FI's screen, if I refresh that, we'll now see that that's now an authorized financial institution, which means that I'm now able to go and submit reports for that. So first I'll show you submitting reports via a web browser. So if I click on submit a report, I have to specify what I'm reporting for, so it'll always be FATCA for now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up an XML file. I've got a few XML files here. These XML files will show various different states of XML, so we can see how the FATCA system deals with various types of invalid XML. So this first one here, called nonsense, is not actually even XML at all. It's the words to what I'm assured it is a pop song. So if I open that file and submit that, then immediately the IGOR system comes back and says that that is in no way a valid FATCA document. In fact, it's not even XML. Data at the root level is invalid, so it's saying that the very first character is not what it was expecting to find. The IGOR system stores an audit trail of what's been submitted, including these failed submissions, and that also means that not only can the user go back and look at what they previously submitted and see what was invalid about it, but also if I go over to the income tax staff interface, they've got a reports tab up here, so they can also see these invalid submissions. So if I show you some of the other types of report here. This one here is at least an XML document, but it doesn't contain any FATCA data. It doesn't have the message spec element or any of the required FATCA elements that are in the XSD. So if I open that one and attempt to submit it, it says it has incomplete content. It was expecting to see the message spec element before it got to this point here. So that's not valid, and again it's audited the fact that that was submitted and recorded what the error message was. So if I carry on through the further ones we've got here, this one here actually isn't valid XML. If we look across, we can see it's got an extra character here that wouldn't be expected. So if I submit that, it says, well, actually two things. Firstly, it wasn't expecting to see text in here, it was expecting to see some elements, and then there was this not permitted character down here. So you can see it's actually reporting two separate errors. It reports as many errors as it possibly can, so that rather than just reporting the first error and then having the user fix that up and then seeing the next one, it gives them all of them in one go so they can improve their document and get it into a valid state as quickly as possible. This one here is a similarly broken XML document. It has this tag here, account report, but then a closing tag, account reports. So if I submit that one again, there we go, it gives lots of detail. The account report start tag does not match the end tag, and here is where it found the incorrect end tag. Now this one here, wrong FI, this is actually a valid FATCA document, but the problem with this one is that the FI which appears in the message spec isn't an FI that I've registered. So when I set up my organisation and my financial institutions, and after signing into the system, that means that the system now knows which FIs it's expecting me to submit reports for. This report has a sending company GIN here, but that GIN does not match the GIN of any of the FIs that I've been authorised to submit reports for, and that's what the error here is telling me. And now, if we actually submit one that is valid and also is for an FI that I actually can submit for, then we now see it says report submitted successfully, and it shows a table which gives you the XML elements and the data that was contained in the report. So you've got some way of reviewing what was contained in what you just submitted. And there's also a tab where we can see what the raw XML is. And going back over to the interface which the staff of the Income Tax Office have, when they look at the reports list now, we can see all the submissions we've made, and there's the successful one, and you'll see it's parsed out from the report the destination country and also the names of account holders. One of the requirements in the system is, well, firstly, obviously, that it will forward the reports onto the correct destination country, and also that the names of the account holders have been parsed out so that the income tax staff can potentially search the submitted reports for particular account holders. Just one more thing, that's what we've shown here is sending reports via a web browser interface. The other thing that is supported is sending reports system to system using a web service call, which is a feature that would be used by larger companies which may operate a number of financial institutions, or which are software developers providing software into financial institutions. For that purpose, when we look at the settings of our organisation, we'll find that we've been issued with an API key. This is a key that we can use in order to make a web service call to the IGOR API, and that means that we can send a FATCA report over the web using a secure interface, and will be authorised to send reports for any financial institution which we've registered in this organisation, and will demonstrate our affiliation with that organisation at the time by providing this API key.